Good evening. I'd like to call to order this meeting of the Cunningham Township Board. It's Monday, April 14th, 2025. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Wu. Trustee
Here.
Evans. Trustee Hersey. Trustee Colasetti.
Here.
Trustee Bishop. Here. Trustee Wilkin.
Here.
Trustee Quisenberry.
Here.
Mayor Marlin.
Here.
Supervisor Chenoweth.
Present.
Assessor Awana.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes. I don't think we had any attached to this agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda or changes? Yes.
One question I had was for the town board, whether or not you wanted to go into closed session. I went ahead and added that to the agenda just to give you that option. Our last closed session covered this topic, and nothing has changed since that conversation. But I wanted to give you the election. If you wanted to, you could remove that from the agenda, or you could keep it.
Comments?
I would say if there's nothing that's changed, is there more information to be given to us around this topic?
I think I shared with you on email the settlement agreement that is on the agenda for tonight, but otherwise, and the resolution states publicly the amount.
Okay.
And the amount is what we discussed in closed session. I do want to say, Clerk, I wondered if, I think the attorney has dialed in this evening, is that right?
Yes.
Is Jenny available?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So we do have our attorney with us with OMFM, Attorney Avery, who's been handling this case if you did have questions. And Attorney Avery, if there's a question that you believe we should go into closed session for, certainly you could, I guess, leave it on the agenda and remove it at the time. But I just wanted to let you know that's the one change you may want to make.
Any direction from council? Grace?
What the supervisor says is correct. The resolution that has to be adopted in a public, in the open portion of the session, authorizes the two officials of the township to execute the settlement agreement once it's finalized, but the amount is contained in the resolution, which you have to approve in open session, and it's within dollars of what we talked about in the closed session the last time. It's not identical.
One question that town board members could ask is if there is any, when we get to that item, is if there's any outstanding issues with Carl. I know Grace had a question about that.
Yeah, we can save that for 8B if you want to. Or go into closed session at 8A, but I agree with that as well.
I would move that we remove item 8A, the closed session.
I'll second that. Okay. There's a motion and a second for removing item 8A. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. We will remove item 8A from the new business, which is the motion to go into closed session. Any other changes? Okay. We'll move on to public participation. There is none. Committee to verify bills.
Good evening. You will see in the supervisor's memo that we had $86,394.64 in the town fund. And in the general assistance fund, we had expenditures of $270,620.13. Our total expenditures for the month were $339,456.78. I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the bills before I talk about the memo, and I did also put the quarterly report on the agenda for an overview.
Any questions? James?
Diane, I have two questions. Oh, sorry.
Yes, I'll call on you after James.
I was going to make a motion, so
Okay.
Go ahead, Mary
Go
Alice.
ahead, Mary Alice.
Yes, so I was wondering, Danielle, can you talk about, there's about $1,700 for homeless prevention and pest?
You said $1.7. Could you say that?
No, sorry. Yeah, 1,700.
And did you say pest or pests? Pets.
PEST, pest.
Yes.
Pest
Yes,
fees.
we had a pest control issue in one of our units that we have now abated, and it was a significant issue that cost that amount.
But it's paid to Town and Country.
Hold on.
I don't know. I'm on page 16, but it's under
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm looking at pest
homeless
control.
prevention.
You're looking at our general assistance.
No, I'm looking under homeless prevention.
Yeah, in
And
our general assistance rather than our town fund. I see it now, it's March 12th, Town and Country pest fee. Yes, when we do, it's under rental assistance, so sometimes what people are facing eviction for is rental arrears. And sometimes they may be facing eviction for like utility arrears or other fees. This is a situation where the person was charged for bed bugs, and they acknowledged that basically we looked at their lease and it was not covered in their lease. They had to pay out of pocket for this. They were up to date on their rent, but they did not have the funds to pay the pest control fee. So to avoid them going to court, and the court rental assistance at the state level will not pay for this fee. We went ahead and paid it, and they will not be able to receive additional rental assistance for 2 years. So it basically will qualify as rental assistance.
Okay. And then my second question had to do with the event vehicle registration.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So if it's also, let's see, you called event. I want to make sure I'm looking at the same.
It's under transportation assistance, and there's two. One is $8,000. One is $6,507.
Yep. Yeah, the Illinois Secretary of State.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so as we've been reporting in our supervisor's memo, we have a SMAS grant through the city of Champaign that comes from IDHS to support low-income individuals who are either people experiencing homelessness or immigrants in the community. And we have held 3 events. We're about to have our 4th event, which will just be more of a legal support event. But the 3 events that we had were provided people with IDs and vehicle registration. So that's part of that grant. And this is I think this refers to the 3rd event that we've had. So if you look in the past, you will have seen several DMV payments for IDs and vehicle registration.
So the 8,000. The 8,000 covers vehicle registrations and IDs for people who fall into those categories?
Yeah, I think that if you look at it, there's vehicle registration there's 2 vehicle registration and there's one called the vehicle IDs, but I think that's the ID. The IDs are not as expensive as the vehicle registration. So essentially we screened residents for eligibility for funds from IDHS for these, and those who are eligible received payment to get their vehicle registration up to date.
Okay, but we're not paying the Illinois Secretary of State to come and provide the event.
No,
we're paying
no.
for the registration.
Correct. Yeah, no, they actually,
Okay.
we have a great relationship with the Secretary of State, and I now serve on their advisory board. But even before then, they have been doing many more mobile DMV events because it's been so difficult to get into the Champaign DMV. And you may have recalled brought this issue to you probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. So they have really increased they've done it out at East Urbana, they've done them at Public Health, they do it at Illini Union once a month, and we've been working for them to have an event in downtown Urbana. So this is all, they give the time of their staff, and we pay for the fees. And we actually work with them if there's any way to discount the fees, because some people receive discounts on their registration based on their age or disability status. We receive that discount.
All right, thanks for the clarification.
Sure.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
Is there a second?
I'll second. I'll second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Wu,
Yes.
Trustee Hersey,
Yes.
Trustee Colasetti,
Yes.
Trustee Bishop,
Yes.
Trustee Wilkin,
Yes.
Trustee Quisenberry,
Yes.
That motion passes. Reports of officers.
Yes, we'll be brief, but essentially I've outlined in the supervisor's memo, which is now 11 pages long, trying to trim that down a bit, but we've been very busy. So I've broken the memo into our teams. So we essentially have the administrative team, which has the bills at the top. Then we have our general assistance team. We have our CARES team, our Bridge to Home housing team, and we have our CARES team. And our CARES team is our Cunningham Township Assessment, Response, and Emergency Services. So it's really responding to the immediate needs of low-income residents. And we bundled our front desk, rental assistance, utility assistance, food assistance, and street outreach under the CARES team. So you'll just see a slight change in how it's set up. I'm going to have, I have a manager for each team, and then that manager works with the case managers to track and report. So you will see we're at about 30 folks, about 104 active general assistance cases. It's been hovering about 100 for a while, and 30 of them are homeless. We did see a record number of Social Security cases passed under the last administration. We expect that to come to a screeching halt. So we have some concerns about that going forward, which I've highlighted. With the CARES team, we had 1,301 incoming calls for service, up from 1,230 the month before. So we're tracking that closely, and just to see where our calls for service are. I had mentioned, and it's in here, that we have a help desk at the Urbana Free Library. And so we're starting to hopefully see some of those tapped off and people going to the library for assistance. And we'll be tracking that separately. We had 31 applications processed in March. Usually this is our historic low as the tax season comes, down from 35 in February. That said, in March, we spent $2,300 to help 22 households, and that was, the same as February in terms of number of households. And then you can see utility shutoffs basically have kind of gone down. We served 10 people in March. Let's see, with street outreach, we served 69 households, representing 75 residents actively sleeping outdoors. We really, in the past, that's been closer to 30 to 40, so we have some concerns there. It does include the 18 unique individuals served by our public health winter emergencies shelter. We did close that shelter with a pizza party and celebration of several residents who secured housing and employment during the winter. For several residents who were working full-time and are very close to rental assistance, they're being housed in our hotel program, and they're about to move out into market rate housing. We had some individuals go back onto the wait list at Strides, and some who had perma beds beforehand go back into Strides, into their beds. So Strides does remain full. School outreach, I just want to note that we have 8 families appearing unsheltered, who appear unsheltered on our wait list. So we're not really seeing that number go down. Usually goes down around this time of year. And then with Bridge to Home team, we pretty much have pulled back. We had more people in housing than usual over the winter. Last month, we served 33 households in hotels, up from our original program plan of 12. Much of that is SMAS funded. And then we do have 2 households from the Philo Road fire that we were housing last month, and 2 of our longtime hotel participants were approved for housing. One of them moved in, and very excited for him because he's had a number of surgeries during the time that he's been in our program, and he was able to move in with a permanent supportive housing voucher. He's sent us a lovely thank you note recently and is really happy about that. He said he thinks he doesn't know where he would be, and literally we saved his life because he was going into surgery the day after he entered our program. So that was an important service for him. And then just any other things I wanted to highlight. Our digital navigators, and I'll include photos in our next supervisor memo, but they graduated yesterday on campus at the ICE school, part of their area at Hub. And so there was a number, we had our trainers, our trainees, their family members. We provided certification. It was a really lovely time hosted by the Community Data Clinic. And we are still waiting to hear about our broadband grant. Seeing a slight decrease in food assistance this last month, consistent with a slight decrease in rental assistance applications with the tax season. And we have just a few plots left in our free garden plot program. We were featured in a WCIA article, which is linked here. If you know of anyone who's interested in gardening, it is free for people who receive SNAP or Medicaid or would be eligible. Once we have processed everyone who qualifies, then we have a few spaces at Wood Street where people can also garden. And if they don't qualify for the program, we just ask that they donate produce to Solidarity Gardens. And then you'll see a number of events we had: a day of fitness, Monarch and Pollinator Fair, presentation on campus. We did a garden beds build day at Wood Street, which we rent from the city. If you go by Wood Street, I would encourage you to. It's very inspiring. There's 20 beds there. There used to be 4. So it's a real community garden now, and it's one of the favorite locations because it's so close to downtown. And then we did a fence build day at Meadowbrook and Victory Park. So people are getting ready to garden this year, which is exciting. And then at the bottom, you'll see there's, I've added a section called staff development so that you know what's on deck, and particularly some of the trainings. We're really leaning in to do true trainings a month with our staff, and you will see their trainings and certifications on the website. Happy to answer, and the mayor sent out an update, which will be in the next supervisor's memo. We don't have a lot to update until we canvass, but the mayor mentioned that we are working with the city of Urbana to canvass 2 properties that will be unfit for human habitation here shortly, and we're partnering and providing services for those residents.
Any questions? Jaya?
What are you hearing about the future of Strides?
Well, I had a meeting about that today. What might be helpful, what I'd like to suggest is to ask a representative of Strides to come and present either to the town board or city council. And because there were some things that were shared today that I'm not sure yet if are public, but I would say that I made the recommendation today that Strides have an advisory board made up of the various entities that are impacted by it being our low barrier shelter for our county. They were very open to that proposal. I think things are looking good for being able to, I don't think there's an imminent closing on site. I think that the bigger issue is sustainability long-term. But let me ask them to give a presentation. I think it would be important and apropos for them to do that.
Mary Alice, did you have any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Chandra?
I was curious how you are tracking or keeping count with the phone. Like, are they, what am I trying to say? Are they, I don't know, counting every time they pick up the phone, or how are you tracking that?
Yeah, so we use a phone system as an online space where I can actually see, so I exclude the assessor's calls. So I'm only looking at incoming calls, so I exclude outgoing calls. I'm only looking at incoming calls, I exclude the assessor's calls, and then I basically look at all incoming calls to every single line. And so the vast majority of calls are actually to, and it doesn't include case managers who work in the field, get cell phones paid for by township. So once somebody is being managed as a case, usually they would use that cell phone access rather than call into their case manager. So that is not included as incoming calls. It doesn't include any of the cell phone calls once somebody is assigned a case manager. But it does include all of the incoming calls for service. It isn't unique individuals, it's calls for service, but that's the same way that it's tracked in the Barry Dunn report. For example, incoming calls for service, somebody calls 3 times because they're having a hard time, it's gonna show up as 3 calls. So it's similar, it's incoming calls for service. And then I can also see how many minutes the calls are, et cetera, and I can see the names or the phone numbers that they're coming from. So just looking at that each month, and I did last 2 months I put email. This month I wasn't able to pull the email I had a tech issue, so I will try to also keep emails up to date just so that you can see that piece. And then next month you'll begin to see the data for the help desk, which started mid-month. So we'll be able to show you a full month of data in terms of numbers of folks who are coming in and the kinds of things they're asking for help with. Sure.
Any other questions? Okay. We'll move on. No unfinished business. We'll move on to the new business, which is the resolution before you authorizing the settlement agreement with Carl Foundation. Was there additional information to provide on that one?
So.
Not for me.
Yep.
Supervisor has. Oh, yes.
Okay.
So what you'll see before you is essentially a resolution to sign a long-awaited settlement agreement with the Carl Foundation Hospital. The amount that we would pay, which is not the total amount we will pay to Carl, we've made payments in the past, is very close to $100,000. It's $98,996.58. And each of the taxing bodies is preparing a similar resolution if they have not already.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion for resolution number T 2025-04-004R, a resolution authorizing the supervisor and/or township assessor to sign a settlement agreement with Carl Foundation.
Second.
Moved by James, second by Sharice. Discussion. Grace.
Thank you. I had a question, if we could just have a little more context into the points 1 and 2 on the therefore. It seems like point 1 saying that this 2008 lawsuit will be satisfied after the payment in 10 days. And point 2 saying that Carl will dismiss the 2013 lawsuit with prejudice. And I didn't know if we could have a little more explanation in layman's terms for us in the public.
Yeah, so I'd ask Attorney Avery to take that, and that's in the settlement agreement that has been circulated by the attorneys with the taxing bodies. It's not the resolution. Just to direct
Yes, there's
him.
just Yeah, there's a note in the second whereas clause. Remember that Carl filed two lawsuits. One was the 2008 lawsuit was the one that was taken to the appellate court, and the taxing bodies lost that. I'll say it was before we were involved, but I don't think that would have changed the result. It was before we were hired as the township attorney. And then that led to the discussions that we have been involved in with all the public bodies with regard to the second lawsuit, which involves different Carl properties in the county, including the township. And that is the subject of the 2013 lawsuit, different properties. So because the first, we have paid, as you know, I think it was November, the township has paid the settlement or the amount claimed and demanded in the 2008 lawsuit, but that's still pending because honestly, they probably wanted it hanging over all the public bodies' heads that they had two lawsuits. And I don't mind sharing that publicly. But both cases will be dismissed once the settlement agreement is finalized and executed by all the public bodies. And Carl, we, the township, will be finished with Carl at that time. Both of those lawsuits, and those are the only Carl lawsuits pending.
Grace?
Thank you. And so if I may just follow-up question to clarify. So this is the township paying just shy of $100,000, and then we'll be finished with all the Carl cases. Is that right?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Wu,
Yes.
Trustee Hersey,
Yes.
Trustee Colasetti,
Yes.
Trustee Bishop,
Yes.
Trustee Wilkin,
Yes.
Trustee Quisenberry,
Yes.
That motion passes. And with no further business before this body, we stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.